Well, once again, welcome to the sixth openparldata.ch meeting. Today we're going to talk about, or mainly Christian in this case, about the current server setup, about the API. We're also eager for your feedback. Also going to talk about the minimal GUI, graphical user interface, and the website that we're going to build for the API. Then Ruben is also here, and he's going to present his project Parliament, which is based on the openparldata. openparldata in this case. And I'm going to quickly talk about the data ecosystem prototype that we are going to build. In this case, supported by the Federal Chancellery, and briefly touch on our next get-together, which will be in person at the beginning of September. And with that said, I will hand over to Christian.
Yeah, welcome everyone. What happened since last time? Actually, we have set up the server environment. Here we also have to thank Reto, which had volunteered a part of that step at the beginning. Unfortunately, he had other duties which he had to catch up. So at the end, we had to do that with other people, but eventually it runs. So we have now one server where we run 2 Docker Compose instances. And from the outside, then your query will be redirected to the prod environment and the test environment. And it looks like this setup works for the moment. We have to see if we need more or have to, make it more stable in the end. It's a little bit to see about what is the server load and what are the queries. We have at the moment 3 components. So there's now the API available. This is the base endpoint. We have a web server where you simply can access through the API, coming from the API, but also directly all the documents which are stored here as binary files, and the profile pictures which are directly accessible, so the API links to that. And then we have, as let's say, a front end and showcase Angular GUI, which uses the API and the documents to show information. Regarding the API, when you go to the API openparldata.ch, you see an endpoint and you see a description of all the available routes. And in your case, because we use a schema behind to configure the API, you also see that. So you can see all the fields, what fields are searchable. You can all see that in this kind of cryptic, or it's not cryptic, but it's a specific format which is used from the configuration. You can get that if you're interested in that. You have more manual readable documentation, which is the Swagger, where we have added as well. Maybe I can show that here. Some part. It's not finished at all, but we have to go through that again. But some features of the API, as well as the usual Swagger. And this is where you can see and try out the query if you want to do that from that endpoint. And going back to the slides, we have as well there's another format. Actually, it's similar like that, but it's another the redoc format. You also can use that. And there's also the OPI 3.0 documentation, which is also available. When you go to that endpoint, you see all those related relinked. The API as shown already last time, can do the basic stuff like you go to an endpoint and you can get all the data from those entities. We have set a limit to 500 per page. You can skip through and download that. We have also in mind, because we had also requests regarding that we will probably expose the data as a JSON dump at some point. We haven't done that yet. Focus is really on the API and GUI at the moment, but that's something we would like to do later. So you don't really have to just use the API if you're really interested in all the data, but simply can download it likely as mentioned, probably here from files. We will set up a directory and you can simply access the data there. Then, yeah, the API, you can get all the individual records if you use the ID at the end for each entity. We have this kind of format because in the database, all the languages fields are stored in one table. For the API, this is being compromised, so you have kind of these nested elements in the in JSON. But if you're interested, and that probably becomes relevant when you also want to for example, make an export for Excel or something, then Excel sometimes has trouble with nested elements. You simply can activate the flat format so you get all the fields out in this kind of language format. Then linking stuff. Oh, maybe that also I have to mention. We had looked into the option of GraphQL, which would allow you to give all this kind of you can make your query and join that. We found it to be too hard to also implement, and therefore we have somehow pimped up the REST API, so you can do a lot of stuff which you probably can do with GraphQL as well in this API. And so you don't have to really think about all the joins which are possible. We have this kind of expand relation. If you use the expand and the star, you get simply all the relations which are there for an entity. So you get, or you can specify. I mean, that's also requested if you don't really need all the data from each person. For example, if you're just interested in memberships of a person or persons, you can simply just use expand and memberships, and you got that. If you want more, like memberships interest, you can do that like that. The moment, as said, it's configured that you get 500 per page of these main entities and a max of 100 for each relations. We had the issues, for example, when you use here votings. I mean, some parliamentarians, they have voted, I don't know, thousands of votings. So if you would request several persons with this kind of amount of relations, we found out it's possible, but it takes quite a long time. So we have reduced that. We are right now in the middle of also adding a paging for that. So at some point you get the first 100, but also you see then in the API directly the URL to catch the next, let's say, 100 votings of this query you have already defined. So that's the expand functionality. Then you can also filter each meaningful field which is there for filtering. You can simply use the syntax to filter stuff. You can also use several of these kind of field names, and in this case, the API will recognize this question, will recognize that you want, in this case, information about the name last one and about consultation, and no, sorry, or that will be handled as or, right? Sorry, it will be handled as or, so you get all those together. And you also can use another syntax, like you simply connect the types with comma. If you have a comma in the value itself, you have the URL encoded, but this works the same way. So you can also use a EOR for that. Then we have implemented the search. So any date which is available in the API, you simply can use a from or can add a from in front of that and to, and then it will treat that as a date range. You also can use the format like simply the year and month, and then we would interpret this as the 1st February to 31 December. And the same as well, if you just have want to know the years or have the years already, you also can use simply that. The API will translate that to a fully format and then make the query. You also can sort. By default, you simply can use this kind of sort by parameter. Can add several sort fields. The default is ascending. And if you want a descending sort field, you simply can use the minus. You put it on before the field name, and then you can get a different sort range. You also have the possibility to use just simply get selected fields. So for example, if you just want the last name, full name, and email of a person, you can specify that here. Then we have a search. So for each endpoint, we have defined several meaningful search fields where you can search. For affairs, this is typically, of course, the title, the long title. And here we also would like to have to make sure that that you can search the documents, even though probably you don't search. I mean, there's a specific endpoint for docs where you can simply search documents, but usually probably when you would like to have an affair, the title won't be enough. We have to figure out a little bit how this works, especially you haven't yet indexed all the 600,000 documents which are available as URLs at the moment. And we have to search how performant it works. Right now, it's activated at least for the titles in the affairs, and it works well. And there will be more coming. Also, the idea is that you can use Bool's operator in that search. Actually, basically in the backend, it's Postgres syntax or Postgres search. I still have to look into that in specific, and also needs to document and also testing them more. But that's the idea, that you can use here also several terms for any entity. Yeah, that's that. Also regarding, where are we at the moment? We have this setup where we have long tested, so we have just started from fresh the instance, and now I think we are coming at the state where we really can say, okay, this is now the data which will be stay. So also I mean, that's important that the identifier for each person will stay the same. And there, at the moment, we are downloading all these documents, but there has been some problems at the moment, especially when we like to fetch those documents in a fast way. We get, for example, when for many city parliaments, they have one provider, and it looks to me that when we scrape too fast, that we get blocked. So we have a lot of connection reviews. Maybe also a bit the issue here is that when they ask the company if you can get white listed, so maybe for that purpose of kind of this project, I hope we are not regarded as intruder. But at some point we have here to really get to all the parliaments to really get that fixed, because the provider is not willing to do that at the moment. Yeah, then let's go to
maybe just
the
Christian, maybe people have questions. I don't know if there are
yeah,
any questions or things you didn't understand, things you want to have for things that Christian has presented until now.
or the API maybe as well. I mean, that was also a bit a question about last time. What kind of features do you want? Have you been able to test stuff? Yeah, what's
Otherwise, we will also have a window for this at the end or towards the end of the call.
okay. Yeah, anytime. Then I would follow up with based on the API, we have started a minimal GUI. So, well, we have decided to focus on 5 main groups, which seems relevant from the outside at the moment, where you can see the data or somehow, yeah, explore what data is there and how the links are there. Yeah, you can try it out. Actually, the idea is here you have first affairs. You can define what kind of yeah, that's a question what we have. I call it body. My colleague calls it Verwaltungsregion. If you have a better term for what actually includes the countries, the cantons, and the city, let us know for what we mean here actually. So you can search for this kind of affairs and you see what kind of affairs we have here. So we have defined here some kind of summary where you get all the main data, and then you can click into that, and you can see some of the data we have, the link data, the documents, and the events. And usually that's also maybe not so, yeah, that's what we have collected. So if it's poor here or not so much information there, that's often because sometimes the data at the source is not really better. That's the issue, especially for city parliaments often. That's that you don't have any when has it ended or something like that. It's just okay, there's a fair and that's the information. Or here, it's even yeah, that's also a question. How do you link to that? Sometimes you have simply in Frauenfeld, you have probably a list where you just list to the affair, but you don't have a specific link to the specific affair, but you just have a link of the affairs. Yeah, and there you can also see maybe that saying, let's go for that. That's okay. Now let's start with that. Here at the bottom, you always can switch between what you have just searched. So you see the API results of that, which is used. So all the information which we use here is just really just the API. We don't store any data in the database for that. It's just using the API to provide this information. We also, yeah, you have to probably delete that. That's what maybe I already can come to that as well. If you have the interpolation, here at the moment we list all the types which are available, and you see it's a list. And that's now the issue that we have at some point said, okay, who is going to define or who is going to make this classification? I can at this point maybe say there's an idea that we would like to have, or some they would like to define a harmonized classes, like just maybe a few. And then we would have in each, for each canton city, we have kind of a list of what is originally available. And then we have to define a mapping for that. And yeah, that's technically we can do that at some point. The question with who's going to decide what should be this kind of harmonization. In the ECH group, we haven't get so far at the moment. I hope maybe we can address that topic there. And as soon as we have results there, we can include that here as well. So at the end, we can not only make like a list of all the stuff, but maybe also type a harmonized type. And the same is for state, which also as really is as messy as the reality is for each parliament. You have different kind of states, and at the moment you can search for that. Yeah, or maybe here. That's yeah, okay. That's something which not it's not yet working. But the idea is that you can search for each state, and that's also made a little bit trivial because you search by the not by an ID in this case, but by a string. Yeah. Then you have what happens? Okay. Same here, you can search for persons, and when you go to the persons, you see uh, information of the person, information of the memberships. At the moment, yeah, that's details we have to fix that, but you can go there and you see the person which is active, which actually is here the membership endpoint, and you can search for I don't know as you want. Yeah, so if you have this button active, which is the idea that those people are still active in Parliament, and filter for that as well. You also can actually, this is then the endpoint for votings. So you see all the votes or votings, and in the votes you see then who actually voted for what. And see the fairs. Then we have the groups. In the groups, we have, I mean, that we have also made, sorry, no, it's not there. It's not working. That's just a feature we have just implemented. That's, maybe that's also something I can show here. Sorry, that's totally forgot. We also have this kind of, if you want to have group types, or let's say if, I. So there's let's say here. You have a filter, which means group by, where we have defined for specific cases like types that you can group that information. Sorry. It's cute. And you see that here. Okay. That's just a recent feature. But the idea is that you can search here by groups in the sense of do you want party, do you want a parliamentary group, do you want a council, do you want a committee, or do you want ad hoc committee? And you can then search these kind of types of groups, which are now groups. Or maybe I can show it here. Harmonized. No, sorry, harmonized still there. It's actually here we have an external type, and this would then be a committee in this case. Yeah, and then we have as well the meetings where you can see the meetings and can go into from who. If we have an agendas items for that we also would see what are the agendas related to the affairs to come up here. And then we have here the main the interests where you can search for who is involved in at the post, for example. You can get there to David Roth. Yeah, you can search like that. Yeah, at the moment we are still making that more smoothly. The issue is that we have you coming from different sites, and sometimes the available we have to make available all the information that it's usable. There has been some kind of good feedback to also improve the API. It's not yet finished, but you get a little bit the picture what you can see and get a feeling for the API. But of course, that's simply one interpretation of the API or use case of the API. You can do more with that. And if there are no more questions for the moment, I would hand over to Ruben, which also uses the API for another use case.
Yes, let me quickly share my screen. It's okay with you? Is that okay?
Yes, we see it.
Okay. So thanks again for having me. And first of all, also thank you very much to all the participants who are working on the Open Data API. It's it's a really cool API to work with. And I want to show you quickly my project. It's called Transparliament. It's a parliamentary affairs explorer and tracker. So only a few words about me. I graduated from the Zurich University of Arts in 2012. I have a bachelor's degree in interaction design. I worked then as a front-end developer in several agencies, such as Hinderling Volkart, Now Department, and Tripol. And since 2019, I'm self-employed at my company Adorable Squid. And currently I'm studying at the University of Basel in a master's degree program in political science and digital humanities. And if everything goes well, I'm graduating in 2026, fingers crossed. So the project details. The context is a seminar paper which I'm writing in digital humanities. Supervisor is Professor Lukas Rosenthaler. He's quite a cool guy. You can see him at the keys with his band Cool Tea Gang. And I wanted to combine topics of political science, digital humanities, and my core discipline programming. And for that, the Open Parl Data API is the perfect stepping stone to create such an application. So for me, it's also a preparatory work for my master's thesis and kind of an exploration for what topics could be useful and interesting to me, but also to political actors in Switzerland. So as I see it, the core problem is information about parliamentary affairs is difficult to track, monitor, and keep up to date. It's often a very menial process and very Excel sheet heavy. And this is true on the federal level. Let's not talk about cantonal or even municipal levels. So I want to achieve 3 goals, maybe not in the seminar paper, but later on to empower target groups such as NGOs and associations. I've been in contact with CH++, Digitale Gesellschaft, and Algorithm Watch. Also political interests groups such as Waldschweiz or Krebsliga, and government agencies such as EDK, the Eidgenössische Konferenz der kantonalen Erziehungsdirektorinnen, but also federal, cantonal, or municipal office could profit. So I'd like to improve monitoring, facilitate access to parliamentary affairs, but also tracking throughout their life cycle, which is then very easy with the API. And the third goal, increase transparency. So to play on the words transparent, transparliament, and make these capabilities also available throughout the administrative levels, so the prefix trans. So now I want to show you quickly a user flow. This means these are still wireframes. It's a work in progress. And yeah, as I said, it's the context of a seminar thesis. That means it's there is a written part, but also this applied part, and later on also a programmed interface. So let's change to Figma. So let's say you're a Greenpeace employee, a representative for political monitoring in the Zurich office, and you're interested in parliamentary affairs work in the canton of Zurich. So you're greeted with this start page. You can click the button and you're landing in this introductory wizard. And you're obviously already logged in then. And yeah, the first thing to do would be create a basic filter, and the easiest filter to choose is a administration body filter. I chose that expression. So as you're working in the Zurich office, you choose cantonal and then also canton of Zurich. You're already on the second step. You have a list of affairs, which is not very useful at the moment. So you choose more columns that you like to display. In this case, a title, and also in the sidebar, you can see that the title is mirrored. Normally now you would add more filters because this list is still not very useful to you. For example, you could add a status, or maybe a politician. You can search for a politician. But let's move on for the moment to save the list. This is the last step, and you have to do a very important choice. So you can save it as a static list, or you can save it as a dynamic list. The difference being that the static list saves the affair IDs, so the affairs as is, and changes in those affairs are reflected, but no affair is added or removed from this list. Whereas on the dynamic list, the filters are being saved. So the list is, as the name says, dynamic. So if you have a status in the filter, there are affairs that will be removed from the list when they change their status, for example. So then you go on, you save your first list, and then it's up to you. You can add more lists, you can add dynamic lists, you can change the lists that you have, or also explore the affairs in more detail. As we have already seen, you can then look for politicians that are involved in those affairs, and so on. So this is the status for the moment. And now, thank you for your interest, and I'm very much interested to hearing from you, especially if you work on similar questions, maybe at another university or at work, or if this application would be useful to you, if you are a public actor, political actor. And yeah, you can email me, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Thanks.
Thanks, Ruben. Are there any questions or comments already? Maybe, otherwise we we can go on. Maybe from what's still going on the oh, there's a question from Charlotte. Please go ahead.
Yes. Hello, Ruben. Thank you very much for the presentation. My first thoughts were that I really like the interaction, the application, and making the access more intuitive for the end user. However, it still seems to be very institutionally oriented. If you force the user to choose a certain level or a specific entity already, whereas I can imagine users maybe being interested in certain themes and actually wanting to know which parliaments, maybe around Switzerland or at different levels, might actually address those themes, because this could actually empower the user as well. So, for example, if you know that a neighboring canton is already taking some actions on, I don't know, poverty policies which affect you, and you can see that in your own canton this hasn't happened yet, then you are more informed and might be more empowered to actually address the people responsible. And I can imagine more use cases like this could be possible. So I think it would be worth considering other entry points or search options for the data. This as a first thoughts coming to my mind.
Yes, thanks for the question. You're absolutely right. It's in this wizard I've shown you, it's just the most accessible entry point to display what the app is capable of. But obviously, you can choose your own filter if you want, so you're not required to choose an administration body. So you can choose topics, you can choose status. It's just more maybe easier to understand if you restrict yourself to just one parliament, so you're not overwhelmed with the plethora of data which is already available. Does that answer your question? Or
yes, it does make sense indeed, but I'd be curious to see how it can work in practice with different kinds of entry points.
Yeah, me as well.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, I guess that's what we are all curious about, what's going to happen. I mean, the data now is there, and yeah, everyone can use the data for their ideas. There was a question in the chat from Wenzel. Is there a request limit for the API? At the moment, no. At the moment, it's all open. But indeed, that's questions. I mean, one point is the question if we get the server overload, so we also have to protect the server at some point. If we're going to do that, we have to do something like limiting that, more in the sense of not getting crashed. And then that's another point which then probably Florian can talk about. We are still in the search of a business model. And in that case, we also may come up with a limit, but the idea is really keep it open, but we also have to make it sustainable, because it's not, we have now had money from Mercator, and we need money for the infrastructure to run that. At some point, we need to come up with a business model. If it's, we find a model which it's open, that would be fantastic. We would like that. If not, we have to maybe also look into possibilities to maybe limit stuff or something like that. Maybe before we get to that data ecosystem, I mean, for me, just to finish a little bit the API part, sorry. I already had this. I mean, there's still a lot to do on my side. I mean, at the moment, till end of August, it's the idea to bring the API integrity to a stable release candidate. There are still some issues we have in mind and to address. Also, to have somehow an improved deployment process. To be honest, it's not totally my field, but I have been working or had the chance to learn here a lot of new stuff. If anyone has good practice for GitLab deployment stuff like in a small project like ours, that would be fantastic. If you also, I would be very interested to learn here from Pose about that. The idea is also have some tests. So if you do some stuff with the API that it's not going to break the API with this deployment process. There is also a need for translation of the GUI. So yes, you have seen all the terms are now in German. We plan to at least do that in French and Italian, maybe English. That's a little bit the discussion. Is it worth if the data is actually just German, French, and Italian to also have a GUI in English? As mentioned, the full text search is something I would like to do. All the modified last updated handling. At the moment, it's quite difficult, so you cannot search for changes. Or not really, in a good way, in the sense of what has changed at the entity or the affair or all the related stuff. And as mentioned, the data improvement, which is more the harmonization stuff, which also goes on the side of the ECH group. And then maybe Florian, you can take over for that one.
Maybe also the slide before.
Or okay, if you want.
Yeah, also just I mean, as Christian said, he's currently doing or like improving and finishing the work or like the first prototype, so to say. So again, we would be very eager to hear or read your feedback. How we've already written also you can also find it in the calendar entry. But if you have a look at the API and you see something that's missing or that or any issues that you run into, missing options, etc., please create an issue on GitLab. You can choose a label API. You can also choose a label GUI/website for if you see something on the GUI or the website that you don't like or that you want that is missing. Please feedback that. I don't know, Christian, for the API, what's a good time frame to give you that feedback until the end of the week or until next week?
Yeah,
or
as,
I mean,
as
just
soon
for
as
this
possible, but it's not that if you kick something, that it won't be treated afterwards. I mean, yes, to go on with that.
But I mean, for this like sprint, so to say, I think this week would probably be good, right? Yes. Okay. So again, please check out the API. Christian posted the link. I also posted the link to the documentation. It's all there. Michael Geis is asking, at the moment we can implement and test the API without having to seek approval in advance, can't we? Yes, it is the case. So everybody, please go and test. If there's anything keeping you from doing it that we have to know or that's a blocker for you, please also let us know. Maybe it's also the case for other people. Yeah. And there's another question. Is there an indicator if data is missing, for example, when the region had no documentation or was not scraped?
That's something I also would like to somehow provide. We have in the database stats about when the runs have been done, completed, how much elements from each entity we have captured. That's an idea to visualize that at some point. Yeah. And also, I mean, that's maybe also going that part we are going to discuss that what kind of I mean, you also have to disclose the sources of all the data. We have already started with some documentation for also discussion with Parliament, where where do we actually get the information from, but bring that also to an order where we have like for that source we use that and give also the appropriate attribution. That would be also something we have in mind.
All right. If you have more questions, I think we're also going to have time at the end. But yeah, so again, the call to action would be please go and test the API and give us feedback. I'm going to post the link to GitLab issues in a second as well. But it's also in the calendar entry for today's meeting. All right. I mean, basically complementary to the API, we also have a website. It's everything is in very much a better state. But I, or together with Christian, already started to think a bit about, okay, what do we like in the short term want to have on that website, openparldata.ch, but also maybe a bit in the more long run. This is very much not finished. It's just the first couple of thoughts. So also here we're very eager for your feedback. You can also input that via issues, via the website GUI label to say, hey, I really need this on the website, or I don't need this, or whatnot. So basically starting with the home page, there's going to be basically before what you see now currently, like just a short description. What is it? What can it do? How does it help you? Blah, blah, blah. So a bit more like not too markety, but to some extent that. Then you're going to probably see the GUI it's some sort, to some extent similar to the one you're currently seeing as a preview to the data. Also a big question is always for us is, again, this minimal GUI is not supposed to be a tool that people are using to do like political monitoring or whatnot. That's what Ruben's tool, for example, is going to be for, but really just as a preview for people or potential users of the API. But I mean, this is probably not, I mean, we cannot prevent just people coming to the website, and I think it should also be self-explanatory to people that don't want to use the API, that just maybe they're political scientists that are not so tech savvy or whatnot, or just citizens. So I think we also have to keep that perspective in mind, although they're not the target users or the biggest target group in that, or the main target group in that sense. Yeah, and then maybe we're also going to have some sort of news section, maybe some other categories on the home page. Yes, and then I think one of the most important pages is going to be the one on the data and the API. We're going to have the documentation there, or probably linked to a separate page, and then also to basically connecting to the question, Terry's question. So a bit of a section like about the data, including like coverage and FAQ. So we're going to say like, okay, where do we get the data? To what extent is it complete? How do we deal with like different languages? How do we do this? How and that? So really a kind of like a documentation on the data as well. Yeah, something we haven't really talked about and haven't put a lot of thought in, but that's definitely very, very important, are kind of like the terms of services. And then also some sort of roadmap, which could also be so hosted on GitLab. I think it's a bit of a TBD as well. Yes, followed by like an about section, so a bit of info on the project, on the infrastructure, also for people that are not necessarily users, but for everyone, team. Then also link to the ECH specialist group, a link to GitLab with all the source code, and definitely also at some points the showcases such as Ruben's in this case, and then also at some point got the sections about the governance, how is this thingy or this API organized, and the group behind it, and maybe also even event section, such as listing meetings such as this public meeting. Yeah, contribute. I think it's also quite for people to know that what can they do to help. Again, another link to GitLab with instructions how to help. Also donation function, I think, would be valuable for us, and then listing all the supporters that have currently supported us, including like institutional donors, and last but not least, like contact and obviously like impressum, imprint, and data protection. Yeah, we're going to post the slides are going to be online. If you see anything, or if you yeah, we're also gonna, I think, probably ping you as soon as we have some of that stuff online, and then you can give feedback. But also if you already see something that you want there, that you need, but I guess we're also going to be very eager for your feedback on the documentation itself. Then, what do you see there that's missing? Where do you need more info, etc., etc. But this is kind of like a broad draft. Yes. Any questions so far? Also, if you have some good inspiration, I was trying to search for other like similar projects. I found a couple, but not too many, to get some inspo what they have online or where they're doing a good job. Please feel free to or yeah, send me those links, then I can get maybe also implement that some things that they are doing good, doing well. All right, then. Next slide, please. Yes, so I think we already touched on it probably during the last public meeting, but with the project or this infrastructure, we've applied for support from the Federal Chancellery. So a bit of context. So the Federal Chancellery is kind of like, yeah, also in charge of kind of like coordinating digital transformation within the Swiss government, and in this case, even beyond, let's say not only the national level, but also cantonal and municipal level even. And one of the like very key projects is kind of like building up this data ecosystem Switzerland. So kind of yeah, made up of different data spaces that are connected, kind of like enabling the sharing, like kind of enabling data sharing, also of yeah, shared data. So not necessarily open data, but kind of like incentivizing and kind of like laying the base for private and public entities to share data. And within that yeah, realm, they're supporting prototypes meaning kind of like projects that kind of can create learnings for them that help them build this data ecosystem. Yeah, and they support that financially, so it's possible to hand in a proposal, which we did, and it was accepted. This proposal was called Governance und gemeinnütziges Geschäftsmodell für eine Dateninfrastruktur für politische Geschäfte, so governance and non-profit business model for a data infrastructure for political affairs or pursuits, or however you want to translate it. And they granted us more than 100,000 Swiss francs for basically for a year. And there we will really focus on improving things that, or like focus on things that we've already to some extent started with, but it's basically, I would say, with one exception, everything but the technical implementation of the project. So basically, it's about improving and implementing and evaluating governance and organizational structure to kind of like, yeah, lay the foundation to be able to govern this democratically and with an independent entity. We will also focus, as Christian said, on implementing and evaluating a non-profit business model with different revenue streams. Also a thing that we've to some extent already worked on, but like wasn't the focus. And then last but not least, we will also evaluate kind of like a potential data space politics or policy, to some extent a feasibility study, whether this is something that is needed, and whether our project could be kind of like the base for this. And the only technical part that we will implement within this project or within this kind of like phase is kind of like means for different actors to contribute data to our API. So in the sense of like shared data. So if other actors have data that is related to our data, how can they contribute? That it can be accessed like either through the API or through our API, or that it's at least connected. And then in the second step, also how can we kind of guarantee the data quality, or can we make sure that the data quality of this additional data, but also our data, is sufficient. Yes, and this work will start in fall 2025. So basically, it's yeah, after this kind of like the Mercator projects is finished, which focused really on the technical prototype. Yeah, this was kind of the main focus. We're kind of like building kind of like this yeah, the context or continuing building the context on top of it. Are there any questions on that? Doesn't seem to be the case. Okay. If not, also feel free to write me an email. Yes, and so for the next Open Parl Data public meeting, it's not going to be an online meeting, but we're going to do like an informal meeting or apero already in 2 weeks, more or less. It's going to happen. The context or the reason why this is happening then and there is beforehand. There's going to be an ECH, also in-person meeting in Bern, and which is going to be a work meeting, and afterwards, I think everyone is going to be tired probably to some extent, but also probably eager for a drink. So this is happening at 4 o'clock, probably, like exact venue to TBD or to be confirmed, but it's going to be at the Berner Fachhochschule at the Marzili at Brückenstraße 73, Bern. You're all going to get an invitation if you got this invitation for today or signed up via the tool. Obviously, this is open to anyone. Just please accept the invitation, or so we know how many people that are there. So it's not necessary to attend the ECH meeting beforehand. So just feel free to drop in for a drink. We might say a couple of words at the beginning, but it's going to be very informal, and we are very much looking forward to seeing you there. This is also going to be to some extent kind of like the roundup of this first phase of the project. Yes, and until then, again, super eager to hear your feedback on the API, also on the GUI. So I'm gonna post again the link to GitHub issues if you have any issues in that sense to create issues or whatnot. Please just write me an email or Christian. Yeah, guess that's it from my side.